Chosen one, stop what you are doing right now and look at the screen. Not because I want your attention for entertainment purposes, not because I have something motivational to share that will make you feel good for 20 minutes before you forget it existed. What I am carrying into this message is a documented account of something that happened when a dark practitioner with years of experience and real spiritual authority made the decision to use your photograph in a ritual designed to permanently destroy something essential in you. And what your photo did to her when she touched it is something that has never been recorded in her practice. Something she was not prepared for. Something she is still processing. I do not create content for everyone. This message was sealed for individuals whose spiritual frequency is so concentrated, so genuinely threatening to the systems that operate in darkness, that their image alone carries enough divine weight to shatter the instruments pointed at them. If you have noticed lately that attacks that used to land no longer seem to reach you, if people who carried bad intentions toward you have gone strangely quiet, if something that felt like a wall between you and what you were building suddenly dissolved without dramatic intervention, what you are about to hear is going to explain every single one of those things. Subscribe to this channel right now and activate every notification. If you are already subscribed, I honor that. Your consistency here is not invisible, and it matters more than you know. Write 777 in the comments the moment something in this message confirms what you already felt but could not name. Stay until the very end, because the most significant part of this account is not the attack. It is what your photograph revealed about you in the moment of contact, and why that revelation changes everything about how you understand the life you have been living. Now I need to establish something important before I take you into the account of what happened. A photograph is not just light captured on a surface. Most people interact with photos as documentation, as memory, as evidence that a moment existed, and that is true as far as it goes, but it stops far short of what a photograph actually is in the spiritual dimension. When a photograph is taken, it does not only capture the arrangement of your physical features in a specific moment of light. It captures the frequency you were emitting at the exact instant the image was made, the emotional state, the spiritual weight you were carrying, the invisible signature of everything that was operating in and around your soul at that specific point in time. Think about photographs that made you uncomfortable without being able to explain why. Not because of how you looked physically, because something in the image felt off, as if whatever was present in the moment when it was taken was visible in a way that normal vision does not access. You are not imagining that. A photograph carries the energetic imprint of the person in it, not as metaphor, as spiritual reality. The image is a container. What it contains is not only visual information, it is frequency. And frequency does not stop operating simply because the moment that produced it has passed. This is why photographs have been used in spiritual practices across virtually every culture in human history. Not because of superstition, because practitioners across generations and traditions recognize the same truth, that the image of a person is a point of contact with what that person carries. And what you carry in your photograph is the reason a practitioner with real capacity walked into an encounter she was not equipped to survive intact. Now I need to take you into scripture before I take you into the account of what happened, because the principle that protected you through your image is not new, it is ancient, and understanding where it comes from makes what happened to her not just extraordinary but inevitable. Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. In the beginning of everything, before there was a single human being walking on the earth, God made a decision about the nature of humanity that set a permanent foundation for everything that followed. He created human beings in His image. The Hebrew word used there is tselem. And tselem does not primarily mean physical resemblance, it means representative projection. It means that when God created human beings, He deposited into the nature of every human soul a direct fragment of His own essence, His own creative power, His own capacity for love, His own weight in the spiritual realm. This is not poetic language. This is architectural description. God did not create human beings and then decide to honor them. He created human beings by placing a portion of Himself inside each one. That portion does not diminish over time. It does not weaken through failure or sin or the accumulation of difficult seasons. It is not something you earn or develop or maintain through performance. It was deposited before you drew your first breath, and it remains operative regardless of everything that has happened since. It is what the practitioner encountered when she touched your photograph. She reached for what she thought was a container she could work with, What she found was that the container held something that was never designed to be overridden by anything she could direct at it. She found Selim Elohim, the image of God, radiating from your photograph with a clarity and a weight that her instruments had no category for, and the encounter broke her instruments before it broke her composure. Before I tell you exactly what happened in that encounter, I need you to understand something about dark practitioners that most spiritual content never addresses honestly. They are not operating without real capacity. Some of what circulates about spiritual warfare presents dark practitioners as essentially powerless, as people with rituals that produce nothing more than theatrical effects with no actual spiritual dimension. That framing is comfortable, but it is not accurate, and it does not honor the seriousness of what you were protected from. Real practitioners who have dedicated years to developing their craft operate with genuine spiritual authority within the domain they have cultivated. Their rituals are not empty. Their intentions land with real weight in the invisible realm. Their capacity to direct spiritual force toward a target is not trivial. Understanding this matters because it reframes what happened when she came after you. This was not a powerless person failing to affect a target because their rituals were empty. This was a capable practitioner operating at the limit of her authority, directing real spiritual force toward a specific target through a real point of contact, and being stopped not because her capacity was insufficient for most targets, but because the specific target she chose carried something that placed the encounter outside the range of anything her capacity could affect. That distinction matters enormously for what it reveals about you. Now let me take you into the account of what actually happened. There is a record in the spiritual realm of this encounter. I am going to walk you through it because the details reveal things about the nature of your protection that a summary cannot. She had your photograph for some time before she moved. Practitioners of her level do not rush, they observe, they study. They wait for what they assess as the optimal conditions for the work. She was watching patterns in your life, looking for the windows that open during seasons of pressure, during transition, during the particular kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying too much for too long without the relief of visible progress. She believed she had identified one of those windows, and she was not wrong that you were carrying weight during the period she chose. You have carried weight for a long time. She could see that in the frequencies your life was emitting, and weight creates what practitioners call accessible surface, points where the outer layers of a person's spiritual positioning are under enough stress that something directed against them has a better chance of finding purchase. She prepared the ritual carefully. She committed her authority to it. She set the intention with the specific precision that comes from experience, and she brought your photograph into the center of what she had constructed. The first thing she noticed was unusual. When a practitioner brings a photograph into a ritual, there is a standard response in the energetic field around the image, a kind of settling, a sense that the connection to the target has been established, that the point of contact is live. With your photograph, that settling did not happen. Instead, there was what she could only describe as resistance at the surface of the image itself. Not the kind of resistance that comes from protective objects or deliberate spiritual shielding. Not something that had been placed around you by another practitioner. Something intrinsic. Something that was in the photograph because it was in you. Something that was not separate from your image, but was part of the image itself at a level she had not encountered before in any photograph she had worked with. She adjusted her approach. This is standard practice when the initial contact is unusual. She redirected, reframed, came at the point of contact from a different angle. She had the experience to adapt when first approaches did not produce expected results. The second approach produced the same resistance. By this point, she was genuinely uncertain about what she was dealing with. She had worked with photographs of people who had been prayed over, people who wore religious objects, people who had been specifically prepared to resist spiritual influence. She knew what that kind of protection felt like and how to work around it. This was different. This was not something layered on top of the person in the photograph. This was something that appeared to be the fundamental nature of the person themselves. She made a third attempt, this time with the full weight of her authority behind it. And this is where the encounter stopped being about what she was trying to do to you and became about what your photograph was doing to her. The moment she committed her full spiritual authority to the contact, she encountered something that her years of practice had not prepared her for. The frequency coming from your photograph did not resist the encounter. It absorbed it, and then it reflected it, not passively, with a force that was proportional to what she had directed at it. Everything she committed to that ritual came back into her field in the same instant. She experienced in her own life, in a concentrated and immediate way, the spiritual weight of everything she had tried to place on yours. Not as delayed consequence, not as gradual consequence, as immediate, direct, proportional return. She left that encounter in a state she had not been in since she began this path, carrying marks she did not enter with, holding in her own field the imprint of everything that had been unleashed and had found nowhere to land, except back at the source. She was not just unsuccessful. She was changed by the failure in a way she is still processing. For those who want to go deeper into the mechanics of divine protection and how to consciously walk in alignment with the covering that already exists over your life, there is material in the description and pinned comment. It costs less than a pizza and comes with a complete audiobook and a 5-minute meditation guide as a bonus. Now I need to take you into the specific scripture that explains exactly why your photograph had the effect it had, and why this was not a random occurrence but an inevitable outcome given what you carry. Numbers chapter 22 through 24. This is one of the most strategically important passages in all the Torah for understanding what happens when dark spiritual authority attempts to operate against someone who is covered at the level you are covered. Balak, the king of Moab, had watched what happened to the nations that attempted to stop Israel militarily. He had seen the results, and he was strategic enough to understand that military opposition was not going to be effective against this particular adversary. So he hired a specialist. Balaam was a practitioner with genuine spiritual authority, not a fraud. Not someone operating with empty rituals and superstitious symbolism. Someone with real capacity to direct spiritual force, whose work had produced real results across many engagements. The reputation that led Balak to him was based on documented effectiveness. He was exactly the kind of practitioner who, in your situation, would be considered a serious threat. Balak's offer was significant. His request was specific. He needed Balaam to curse Israel, to use his genuine spiritual authority to direct something destructive at a target that military force alone could not reach. Balaam approached this the way a capable practitioner approaches serious work. He sought divine guidance on whether to proceed. He built altars. He made offerings. He positioned himself to receive clarity on how to execute what was being asked of him. 3 times he set himself in position to release what Balak was paying for. 3 times he opened his mouth to curse. 3 times what came out was a blessing, not because he lacked the authority, not because he was unwilling, not because the ritual was improperly conducted, because the target was covered in a way that made the curse impossible to place. And Balaam's explanation of why he could not perform what he had been contracted to perform is one of the most precise spiritual statements in all of Scripture. He said, "How can I curse whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced?" He was describing a category of target that exists outside the jurisdiction of any dark spiritual authority. Not because the dark authority lacks genuine power, because the covering over this specific target is of a nature that dark authority cannot penetrate, regardless of how it is directed or how much capacity is committed to the attempt. The practitioner who came after you was operating with real capacity, but she was operating against a target in that category. And she discovered what Balaam discovered, that genuine capacity does not matter when the target is covered in the way that you are covered, that the most carefully prepared ritual, the most precisely directed intention, the most fully committed spiritual authority runs into something at the point of contact that simply has no vulnerability for it to exploit. She found no entry point because there was none to find, not because you built one. Not because someone placed it there on your behalf in response to the attack, because it has been there since before you were aware there was anything to protect. Now let me tell you about the specific nature of what your photograph revealed when she touched it, because this is the part that carries the most significance for how you understand yourself going forward. A photograph that has been prepared as a point of contact in a dark ritual becomes a kind of diagnostic instrument for the practitioner using it. The response of the photograph to the ritual tells the practitioner something about the nature of the person in it, how they are positioned spiritually, what kind of influence they are susceptible to, what areas of their life offer accessible points of entry. What your photograph told her was not what she came looking for. It told her that she was touching something that bore the direct frequency of divine origin, that the person in the photograph was not simply a human being with some form of spiritual protection, that there was something in this person's fundamental nature that made the very concept of dark influence inapplicable at the level of her deepest attempts. She had touched something that was not designed to be touched by what she had, and the encounter confirmed that with a thoroughness she could not dismiss or reframe. Your photograph was the most honest mirror she had ever looked into, and what it showed her was the truth about the fundamental difference between what she served and what you carry. I need to tell you now about the specific consequences of what happened to her, because this is the part that reveals why you have been noticing certain things in your life recently that did not have obvious explanation. When a practitioner of her level encounters what she encountered in that ritual, the aftermath in her own life follows a predictable pattern. What was directed outward returns inward. The things she attempted to place on you began operating in her own experience with the precision of what she had calculated for you. The disorientation she intended to create in your sense of direction began operating in hers. The isolation she intended to intensify in your life began concentrating in hers. The blockage she intended to place over the flow of provision toward you began affecting her own access to what she needed. This is not revenge. This is not punishment administered from outside. This is the natural operation of what the scripture describes as the return principle. What is sent against someone who is covered comes back to the sender through the same spiritual channel it was sent through. Proverbs chapter 26 verse 27 says it with a simplicity that is almost casual. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. Whoever rolls a stone will have it roll back on them. She dug a specific pit for you, and the ground beneath her own feet opened up. She rolled a specific stone toward your life, and it turned around before it reached you and came back on its own weight. This is why certain things shifted in your life without you doing anything to make them shift. The opposition that had been structured against specific areas of your life was being experienced by the one who had structured it, and she was no longer in a position to maintain what she had set in motion because her own situation required her complete attention. The attack on you did not fail and leave nothing behind. It failed and left consequences. And those consequences are what created the movement you have been noticing in areas that had been stuck. Now I need to speak to you about something that most people who have been through what you have been through carry without fully examining. The question of why you were targeted at all. This is the question that dark practitioners never want their targets to ask, because the honest answer to it reveals something about the target that the opposition would prefer remain hidden. Dark practitioners do not randomly select targets. There is no system in which someone with real spiritual capacity wastes that capacity on people who pose no significant threat to the systems they serve. Resources go where the return justifies them. The fact that she identified you, studied you, prepared for you, and committed her full authority to the work of trying to destroy something in you is not evidence of your vulnerability. It is evidence of your significance. She was not operating against someone she considered manageable. If she had considered you manageable, she would not have allocated what she allocated to this engagement. She was operating against someone she considered a genuine threat to what she served. And she was right in her assessment. She was only wrong about her capacity to neutralize it. The gift you carry, the calling that was deposited in you before you were born, the frequency that your life emits when you are operating in alignment with who you actually are, these things are not invisible in the spiritual realm. They are not hidden from the entities that operate in darkness. They are visible, they are recognized, and they are taken seriously in ways that should permanently reframe how you take yourself seriously. You have probably spent significant portions of your life questioning whether the sense of purpose that persists in you despite everything is genuine or is self-deception. Whether the feeling that you are here for something that extends beyond your personal comfort and survival is an accurate perception or an inflated one. The practitioner answered that question for you without meaning to. She does not commit her resources to inflated perceptions. She committed her resources to you. Now I want to tell you about something that Elisha's servant experienced that directly mirrors what you are living right now. 2 Kings chapter 6. The king of Syria had surrounded the city where Elisha was staying with a great army, horses, chariots, the full weight of military force assembled through the night with the specific purpose of eliminating one man. When Elisha's servant woke in the morning and saw the army surrounding them, his immediate response was panic. He went to Elisha and said, essentially, what do we do? We are completely outnumbered and surrounded. There is no way out. And Elisha said something that sounds simple until you understand what he was actually describing. He said, Do not be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Then he prayed that the servant's eyes would be opened, and the servant looked again at the same situation he had just assessed as hopeless. The same mountain, the same location, the same physical reality. And he saw horses and chariots of fire surrounding them on every side. The protection had been there the entire time, not arriving in response to the crisis, not called into position by the prayer. It was already there, already surrounding, already present in force that vastly outnumbered the threat. The prayer did not create the protection. It opened the servant's eyes to what was already real. Your photograph entered that ritual carrying the visible frequency of what surrounds you, not what you called in through prayer in that specific moment, not what arrived because the attack triggered a divine response, what has been there all along. The practitioner saw, through the forced intimacy of the ritual, what Elisha's servant saw when his eyes were opened. She saw the fire, she saw what it meant, and she was not equipped to continue. Let me tell you about the 5 shifts that are already operating in your life as a direct result of what happened in that encounter. The first shift is the dissolution of a specific kind of fatigue. There is a type of exhaustion that is not produced by physical or emotional effort. It is produced by constant low-level spiritual opposition. The cumulative weight of something pressing against you persistently without dramatic incident. You may have experienced this as a chronic heaviness that had no obvious source, a tiredness that sleep did not resolve, a sense of being consistently depleted without being able to identify what was consuming the energy. What the practitioner had directed at you contributed to this. With her operation neutralized and its energy returned to her, a specific layer of what was weighing on you has been lifted. You may notice this as a lightness that seems disproportionate to what has actually changed in your external circumstances. That disproportionate feeling is the evidence of what was removed. The second shift is the restoration of forward movement in areas that had been stalled. Opposition that had been invisibly structured against specific areas of your life was maintained by the practitioner's continued intention, with that intention now turned inward toward her own situation. The structures she had built around your progress are no longer being maintained. Things begin to move, not because the external circumstances changed, because what was holding them in place was removed from the field. The third shift is an increase in discernment about the people around you. When dark intention has been directed at someone through a ritual, one of its effects is a subtle clouding of the target's ability to accurately read the people in their environment. The practitioner benefits from this because it makes it harder for the target to identify who is serving as a conduit for continued influence. With the operation dismantled, that clouding begins to lift. You may find yourself seeing people in your life with a clarity you did not have before, recognizing things that were visible but not registering, understanding motivations that were obscured. This is not paranoia. It is clarity returning. The fourth shift is an unusual increase in meaningful coincidence. When a layer of spiritual opposition is removed, the natural flow of divine provision and guidance that was being interfered with begins to move freely again. This often manifests as a period of what appears to be coincidence but carries the signature of intention. The right information arriving at exactly the right moment, the right person appearing in exactly the right context, the right door opening precisely when the previous one closes. Pay close attention to these in the coming weeks. They are not accidental. They are the restored flow of what was always moving toward you but was being redirected. The fifth shift is a deepening of your sense of calling. The specific thing the practitioner was most trying to destroy was your certainty about who you are and what you are here for. The persistent sense of purpose that refuses to be argued away, regardless of how many external circumstances seem to argue against it. That certainty, which was under sustained pressure during the period of the attack, is going to deepen in its aftermath in a way that is disproportionate to anything you have done to cultivate it, because what was pressing against it has been removed, and what has been pressing back against the opposition will continue pressing, even with the opposition gone. The purpose you carry does not need the pressure to exist. It exists independently of what pushes against it, but the contrast between how it felt under sustained pressure and how it feels now that the pressure has been removed is going to produce a clarity about it that you have not experienced in a long time. I want to close with this. Your photograph is still just a photograph to every physical observer who looks at it, but in the spiritual realm, it is something different. It is evidence, a record of what you carry that cannot be edited or disputed or explained away. A container of the frequency you emit that proves to anyone in the invisible realm with the capacity to read it exactly what is deposited in you and exactly what that deposit is connected to. The practitioner who touched it was not deceived about what she was dealing with. She encountered the real thing, and the real thing was not what she had the authority to handle. Your photograph told the truth about you in a context where the truth was being tested under the most adversarial conditions possible, and the truth won. Not because you were performing your faith correctly on that day, not because you had done enough spiritual work to build sufficient defenses, not because you were in a particularly elevated state. Because what is in you is what it is regardless of what state you are in when someone tries to touch it. Tselem Elohim does not turn on and off based on your performance. It was deposited before you existed, and it will remain operative after every season of failure and pressure and doubt and exhaustion that this life produces. It is what you are made of at the level that no practitioner, no ritual, no dark authority can reach. She reached for it and found that out. And you are walking in a life that is already different because of what her failure set in motion. If everything you heard confirmed something your soul already knew but had not seen named this clearly, write 777 in the comments right now as a declaration that you receive this and you understand what it means for who you are and what you carry. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now because what it reveals is the next part of what you need to understand about what your life looks like on the other side of an attack that was meant to end you, but ended up confirming you instead. Together we are stronger.